Yep, super excited to introduce Flare. Um, the reason we started building Flare is really because of the frustration I felt after working in the creator and the influencer space over the last 5 years. Before building Flare, I was at Rakuten Marketing, helping them build out their influencer marketing business and taking that from $5 to $50 million a year and working with some of the largest brands in the US. During that time, I've gotten a chance to see how much this space has really exploded. Creator marketing, it's a $35 billion market, the fastest growing marketing budget. And of course, retailers are doubling down, but what we're also seeing is that creators are just driving growth across every category and every vertical. So the demand has exploded, but behind the scenes, working with creators is still very much a very manual and a difficult process. It's teams of people that are manually reaching out to creators and trying to coordinate these relationships over email and over spreadsheets. There's a lot of existing solutions. You might have seen a lot of the solutions out there that are trying to solve this problem. I know them very well. Part of my role at Rakuten was to evaluate vendors and see who we can partner with to automate our own processes. But none of them worked the way we need them to because all these solutions followed a very similar playbook. They scrape the internet and then build a database of creators, and then they rent access to brands to access this database. The fundamental problem is that these creators are strangers. They barely know the brand. They might have never tried the product. They might not even like the product. So marketing teams are spending even more time trying to find effective creators who can actually represent the brand effectively. There's also a lot of tactical limitations. There's only a finite number of creators who are an ideal fit within these networks, and they're really expensive to work with. We spoke with Kenneth Cole, who's sending out over $120,000 a year worth of free product so that creators have something to talk about. So I think fundamentally the problem isn't just finding creators, it's finding folks that you can work with easily and who you trust to represent your brand. And that's why we built Flare. Our thesis is that creators are already shopping with the brands that they resonate with. So we've built AI agents that can help brands find those creators within their own customer base. And the customers we're working with, they're finding hundreds, if not thousands of creators who are already shopping with them. So we're able to help them partner with folks who already know the brand, already have the product, and are ready to collaborate. Here's how this works. So this is an example with one of our customers who are live today. Playfield is a pet brand, and they install Flare on Shopify. And immediately we're able to search their customer base and find potential creators. We saw that Raquel made a purchase back in December for $30. She's been a longtime partner with the brand, and she's been shopping with them constantly. And she's also a creator on Instagram who features her dog very frequently in her content. So she's a great fit for Playfield. And what we did was we offered her a full refund on her order in order to highlight the product and feature it in her most recent content. The results were this amazing video. It reached over 4,000 people. And what this ultimately meant is that Playfield was able to automatically find a creator who just bought a product and reach over 4,000 people at less than 1 cent per cost per view. And for Raquel, this was a really ideal partnership. This was a brand she already loved, she already had the product, and she was really excited to partner. Behind the scenes, what's making all this possible is really what we've been able to do with our AI agents. Not only are they identifying creators from a brand's customer base, but they're reviewing them automatically. And because we find such a wide range of different creators, folks with 5,000 followers to folks with over 1 million, we use AI to have very personalized one-on-one conversations with each creator to see how they can best feature the product, negotiate rates so that brands can get the most out of every single creator that they find. We're really excited to share that since we launched, we found that this system of finding creators from shoppers and working with them, it's working very well. Over the last 90 days, we've tripled our revenue and we've successfully moved up market to target much larger brands. Early on when we launched our product in January, And we were very purposeful in launching with small SMB customers like Playfield so we can, get traction really quickly and start getting the ball rolling. We're really seeing the fruits of that now. We pivoted in April to target much larger brands. And since then, we've been able to grow revenue much quicker. We've been able to 20x our average customer value and really start driving that meaningful revenue. For us in our pivot up market, what was really important for Flare is we wanted to make sure that we can nail down a go-to-market motion that can really scale as we continue to grow. Right now, we have a repeatable sales motion that can reach 200K in MRR over the next 9 months that we're very focused on executing. Uh, what our sales motion looks like is we brought on an agency that's been scheduling very high quality introductory calls with CMOs and founders at e-commerce brands. From there, we convert roughly 70% of those calls into a qualified demo. And out of those, we close roughly 40% and generate $2,000 in MRR per customer. So just by doubling down on this motion, we believe we can reach 200K in MRR over the next 9 months. For us, I mean, when we look ahead into the future, our vision and what we believe is that Flare will be the way that every consumer business will work with creators. Uh, for a lot of businesses, working with their own customers as creators is really the most effective way to work with creators. Imagine if you're a travel company or you're, a company like Expedia, you would need to find creators that are about to go on a trip, that are about to book travel. If you're a physical store like a Glossier or Starbucks, you need to find creators in your vicinity and coordinate an in-store visit and get them into your physical location. With Flare, you're able to essentially find creators who are already in your store shopping with you and give them an offer while they're still physically in your store. And outside of just necessity, even the e-com brands that we're working with today, when they realize that they can work with their own customers, they're not going to turn to strangers to represent them. They're going to turn to the people who already own the product, who can represent them authentically, and someone who already they have that relationship with. And ultimately, that's how we see this space evolving. We believe customers are going to be key in this next era of creator marketing that's going to be much more focused around authenticity, not just scale and nameless faces representing your product. Uh, just to wrap up, I mean, I think what's really driving our momentum today and what gives us a lot of confidence in our long-term vision is our exceptional team. As for myself, I'm a second-time founder. I spent over 10 years building products, with half that time building specifically in the creator space. At Rakuten, I helped them build a $50 million influencer business, and I've seen how to execute and really scale in the creator space. Lucky for me, I married an exceptional seller, Jessica Ang. She's our head of revenue. She spent over 8 years selling B2B, and in her previous role at Census, she closed 25% of the entire company's revenue before it was acquired by Fivetran. And finally, Dennis, who's our technical co-founder, he brings incredible technical expertise and leadership. He's a second-time founder as well, with deep experience building in both fintech as well as in AI. Uh, to wrap up, I mean, right now we're not actively fundraising. We were just recently accepted into an accelerator, and we're really focused on execution over these next 6 months. Our goal is, of course, to double down on growth so that we're in a really good spot to raise a pre-seed round early next year. We'd love to connect with investors who are interested in our vision and what we're building, and we'd love to stay in touch as we continue to grow. Cool. Thank you so much. Would love to hear any feedback.
Thanks, Justin. And thank you again for jumping in. Really appreciate it. As a reminder, feel free, if you could unshare your screen, thank you. You can either raise your hand or you can add a question in the chat. I'll call on you live, or I have a ton of questions always, but I want you guys to be involved in this process. What questions do you have for Justin? Was there anything that was particularly interesting, or did you have a question mark on in what he was building or he is building? Let me know. Otherwise, I'll just go into my questions. So Justin, did I hear someone? Just kidding. Justin, I think it's really interesting, and I applaud you on starting to build relationships before you need to raise. I think that shows a lot of foresight. I might want to think about like what that raise would look like. I know you're super early, but you kind of want to have an idea of what that ask might be based on kind of historical companies raising in the space. Because I want to know if you're pitching to investors, which is a lot of us in this room, I want to know like, does that fit what I might be interested in the future? Like, are you raising a small, you said you're raising a seed round. What does that range maybe look like? And you can be kind of broad about it. So I just wanted to know like a bit more specifics about that. I also just want to call out that this is, as you know, a super saturated market. We've done one investment in this category. You got really big players like Aspire IQ doing a ton in an AI. Can you just differentiate yourself a little bit from the leaders in the space like Aspire?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we see is kind of the traditional approach in this space is um, a solution will go out. They hone in on this idea of, okay, the problem, the bottleneck in creator marketing is really just finding creators. So the solution is usually a very similar playbook where they're scraping the internet or they're running ads and recruiting a network of creators, and then essentially renting access to those to brands in order to partner with those creators. These are solutions that we've touched on a lot, especially during my time at Rakuten. But I think what the fundamental problem really becomes that it's really challenging to work with these creators and know who's going to be effective. There's a really difficult process to really build trust because it's really about, can these creators represent my brand well? What we like to say is that these are really, cold outreach to cold relationships. There's really nothing underlying that makes them a good fit. What we believe we've been able to do is essentially hack this marketplace by opening up a new channel, a new avenue of creators, folks who already have the product, who already understand and know the brand, and that's allowing us to create much higher quality content. And
So
I
it's just
think
consumers equal creators, like your existing consumer equals creators. I think I'd like to
exactly,
you
yeah.
get to that a little bit more succinctly up front. Like when you started your pitch, you kind of just you started talking, and I wasn't clear. Slide two, I was very clear what you did, but I think that that kind of succinctness of your current customers are your creators or are the brand creators would connect the dots for me, and I probably would ask less questions about the competition, right? Because you're totally right. They're just basically funneling all of these creators into this giant well, and they don't even know, you don't even know if they like your brand. All right, we have a couple questions in the chat. We said, Justin, great job. Curious if brands are seeing similar CTA outcomes with customer content versus UGC influencer content. Is the math mathing? I love that.
Yeah. So with UGC content, typically what we're seeing is a brand they're essentially paying for actors, if you will. They're paying very small amounts for creators to make content, and then they're putting paid ad dollars behind it in order to reach a broader audience. What we're seeing is that in our model, we're not only able to automate some of the automated ads part. So after a creator makes a post, we're able to run it against ads. But these creators that we're working with, they are delivering really high CPMs, mainly because they're charging much lower rates because they already have the product and this is a brand that they have a relationship with. So we're able to be very competitive on the CPM side, as well as have all the benefits of kind of that paid media spend behind it once that content goes live.
Think that's a great point. I might double click on that because that's really outcome driven. So like increase CPM, like that's what we want to see in terms of those outcomes. And then the tie between the content and the putting the dollars behind the ad spend, like that, explosive growth is also something that's really impactful. So you didn't really talk about that, but that's another value add in what you're building. And I
Mm,
would definitely double click on that again.
absolutely.
We have a couple more questions. How do you mitigate influencer brand mistakes from a customer and company perspective? Is there a liability or insurance coverage that protects Flair and the companies it refers content creators for? This is a really good question. I know on the Aspire side, like if a brand doesn't like the content, they don't pay for it and they push it right back to the content creator. It's a little bit of a mix of that
Mm.
question, but how do you deal with brand mistakes?
Yeah. I mean, one of the benefits of working with customers is we have reached out to folks to say, hey, this is my first purchase. I'm only getting to know the brand. I'm not in a place to represent it well. So just by working with customers, we mitigate a lot of that risk. And also for the brand side, as part of the process, there is still content reviews. So the brand is able to take a look at the content before it goes live to really eliminate that risk.
Got it. But are you building brand guidelines and uh, really outlining what the request is on the content side, like all these other platforms are, I would assume?
Yeah, so we build custom, we use AI to generate custom brand guidelines depending on like what did the creator purchase, what are they going to post about. So we're able to personalize it really deeply.
Great. Second question in that same vein, how do you, I love this question. How do you see the future of created influencers,
Oh
AI
yeah.
created influencers versus human influencers affecting your business model, B2B demand and trust?
Yeah, absolutely. This is something we're really excited about because we think if a business is essentially hiring any creator, right, to just make a video that they can then take and run ads against, we think that this will be kind of the first segment of creators that will be replaced with AI ads. I think what makes Flair really special and really durable in this space is that by working with authentic customers, there's a layer of authenticity that, of course, AI will not be able to replicate because these aren't even real people, not to say, real customers. So for us, we're really doubling down on these authentic partnerships, and we believe this is going to be a key part of the business, especially as we see kind of more AI content replacing like traditional UGC.
Okay, fair enough. A couple more points on my end if there's no more questions from the group. You talk about the TAM claim that like 10% of all customer purchases are made by creators. I'd love to see the citation on that. I'd love to see the data on that, actually. That would be super helpful. Um, and then you mentioned Starbucks, Sephora, Expedia, Equinox on the vision and slide logos. Those aren't customers, right? There's no live pilot with them. That's just aspirational positioning, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. Just want to be clear on that. And then if you could dig in a little bit more, it looks like your MRR went from 960 to 3,600 over 5 months. That was March through July. That's really great percentage growth, but on an absolute basis, that's a 3x in 90 days. It's kind of small numbers. But then you said you had a clear path to 200K MRR. So can you just math that out for me a little bit?
Yeah, for us, when we look at the path to 200K MRR, there's a few things. We're doubling down on the sales motion just to continue bringing on brands. We want to get to 100 mid-market brands. And especially now, as we're maturing some of these early relationships, we're starting to be able to essentially increase our prices. So I know we have a minute left, but a quick background on kind of our pricing model. We take a software fee and we take a percentage of the dollars of the budget being invested into creators. So what we're starting to see is that brands will start with a couple $1,000s a month in budget, but we're quickly growing that, and we believe we can scale that to around $10,000 in ad budget. So that's going to contribute to a significant portion of revenue.
Got it. So you're taking two bites at the apple, and then it's a land and expand model on top of that.
Exactly.
Um, just two more quick questions. This is a double-sided marketplace at the end of the day, and budget spent on marketing to a double-sided marketplace is quite expensive. I didn't see a lot on the marketing side. Can you just click on that for a minute?
On like the marketing that we're running, or
Yeah. How are you? You said you had this agency that was basically responsible for all of that, which is another question I have. But how
oh
are you
yeah.
marketing the product?
Yeah, so our go-to-market is entirely a direct sales model. So when we sell to a business, and this is, I think, a unique approach to the creator space, we do not need to go out and recruit creators. Every creator that we find is coming from the brand's own customer base. So we sell very much as a SaaS solution. We sell into
And I'm
the
sorry, and they give you access to their customer database?
yes, that's part of, absolutely.
Got it. Okay, I would definitely click on that because that's a huge win. Got it. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And a big part, like security is uh, you know, top of mind for us as we're looking to sign on even larger clients. We're going through SOC 2 compliance right now in those audits. So
My
yeah, it's
next
top of
question.
mind for us.
Good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for answering all the questions and really thank you for jumping in when we were having some technical issues.
No
You're
problem at
you're the
all.
hero of the day, Justin. Great job. And with that, are we ready to kick it back to Maggie? Did we figure out the tech
We
issue?
are.
All
Yes.
right.
And thank you, Justin, for
All right.
saving the day.
All right, Maggie, go ahead and take us away.
Okay, so Gigi's going to share the screen. Yay! Perfect. Okay, give me 1 second. All right. And then Gigi, I'll just say next. And then if you can just shift to the next slide for me.
Sounds good.
Cool. All right. Ready? Okay. Hi, guys. My name is Maggie, and I am the founder of SATA. We are building a kids' universe for money confidence starting as early as age 5. Through games, characters, and stories, kids actually want to spend time with. We're shaping their relationship with money before the behaviors become deeply ingrained. Next. Oh, no. There we go. Cool. So this all started from something very personal. I grew up moving around a lot with a single mother who modeled what grit, independence, and hustle looked like for me. But the one thing we never talked about is money. The silence shaped how I moved through the world, how I valued myself, the jobs that I wanted. And even after building successful businesses, I realized that there's a lot of trauma and a lot of anxiety and self-doubt that I carried with me. So it made me ask, why do we wait until adulthood to fix a relationship with money that starts in childhood? So that's why I built Sata. Next, please. So here's what we know. According to a study done by Cambridge, money behavior actually forms around age 7. But most financial education doesn't show up until kids are teenagers. And when it does, usually we're teaching them math, right? Like savings, budgeting, investing. Those things do matter next, but knowing what to do doesn't mean you're actually going to do it. Financial literacy solves for information, but the problem is actually our identity. And money decisions are shaped by our emotions, our confidence, habits, and the patterns that we actually develop over time. So the real problem isn't actually financial literacy, it's behavior. And we're actually building at that window where behavior starts forming. Next. And this is SATA. We're not just building another app that teach knowledge or help manage your finance. We're building a world that kids actually want to come back to. And here's how they will experience it. Next. So kids will meet characters that they identify with. They get to go on fun games, quests, and make real life choices. They care for a virtual pet that reinforces consistency and responsibility. And they get to play games and be immersed in an adult world because that's literally what kids want to do. They just want to be grown-ups, right? But all in a kid-friendly and safe environment. And to a 5-year-old, it's a world they're playing in. But to us, and underneath all of that, we're building experiences around emotions, trade-offs, patience, decision-making, right? Things that will actually be more valuable as you grow. And every interaction helps us understand how kids think and how they make decisions about money. And the magic is that kids, the child of Sata, they don't feel like they're learning financial literacy. They're actually just playing the game. Next. So even in this stage, as early as we are, we're already seeing signals that kids want to come back. Our D7 retention is 33%. It's up roughly about 57% in just 2 months of iteration with zero pay acquisition. We have about 300 early learners right now, and they're all organic. And our distribution partners can put SATA in front of more than 20K kids across 5+ cities in this fall. We're also in active conversations with 3 major North American financial institutions. Next. But some of the favorite signals aren't just numbers. They're actually parents telling us that kids are bringing conversations to them. One parent even told us that his son, London, received pocket money. And he literally said, I'm going to save my money because that's what SATA taught me. So that's the type of behavior change that we're looking for. Next. So we're building distribution differently. Parents can subscribe directly, so our D2C, but we don't believe that every family should have to discover and pay for SATA on their own, right? We want this to be accessible to all kids. Our primary business model is B2B2C. We bring in partners who are ready to own this moment of transformation with us. So institutions that have been spending a lot of money trying to reach families, engage the next generation, and support their communities. Next. So instead of building another experience themselves, these institutions, they get to bring SATA to their families. And SATA gets distribution without relying entirely on expensive consumer acquisition. We're already testing SATA, implementing SATA through schools, nonprofits, kids brands, and we even had our own SATA market, which is an entrepreneurship workshop that has been kind of like where we teach kids how to be entrepreneurs. They get to sell, and we invite the community to come and buy from them. So that has been quite successful, where we're actually going to use that and launch it in multiple cities as our go-to-market strategy. Over time, the same universe will expand into our IP licensing, stories, media, merch, and immersive experiences. Next. So with that said, when we think about the size of the market, we don't really see just one market. We see two buyers around the same product, but the bigger opportunity is the world that grows with it. Our app isn't just for a child to come on and then graduate from it after 6 months. What we're thinking is long term. Our vision is to create that value and memory through our stories and characters. So that way, our digital product is kind of like the starter, the relationship starter, and then it carries out with them. Next. So we see a lot of learning apps and banking tools out there. The other one, next. Yeah. So here are some learning apps and banking tools, right? Those companies start with financial products and add engagement around it. We're starting with what kids want, and we're also tapping into that age range where not a lot of companies have reached. And if we get this right, the kid won't necessarily remember budgeting lessons they learned from SATA. They're going to remember the characters who help them build decisions. And that's the relationship we're trying to build. Next. So our team is intentionally built across all the disciplines. I lead the vision and the courage to think differently from the status quo. Jose is my co-founder. He has a decade in education and financial literacy, has 2 little girls. Anjana brings 8+ years across fintech infrastructure, came from Block and Microsoft. And our broader creative team brings experiences across gaming, entertainment, media, and worked at some of the largest consumer brands in the world. Together, combining behavior, technology, storytelling, that's, I believe, what the category requires. Next. So we are raising 550K on a 5 million save cap to prove this engine. The capital is only one piece of it right now. Similar to Jason, we really believe that we can find partners, our B2B partners, to scale. So we're looking for investors, financial institutions, kids brands, and media partners who see that same opportunity we do to shape a child's relationship with money before anyone else does, and to challenge that uncomfortable truth. For a bank, SATA can become a way to build trust with the next generation long before their first account, right? And for a kid, a media brand that can be taking the character that kids already love and giving them a role and helping them navigate through choices, expanding on that. For investors, it's an opportunity to bring us more kids because money confidence isn't a luxury, it's a right. So we don't want to build SATA in silo. We want to build this universe with partners who can help kind of like propel us. Next. So I want to end this with just saying that SATA isn't another tool. We're actually building a world that ends money silence.
Thank you. If I
Thank
can
you.
back, thank you so much. Okay, so I would be remiss as a marketer without calling you out and saying, you knew you were coming and pitching, and you knew you had a deck, and you knew we were on Zoom. So please make sure for future pitches that you're prepared,
Yeah.
because it just sours the room to you in a way that is unnecessary, right? I'm not going to try and
Yeah.
give you too much shit about it, because like shit happens, but preparation is everything, right?
Yeah.
And I'm a stickler for that. So that said, and a little bit of media training, I think you will be in a good position. We have a couple of questions. For B2B to C, how do you integrate within highly regulated education sectors for approved and accredited curriculums? Answer that question first, and then we can ask the second one.
Yeah. Do you mean like compliance and all of that?
Yeah, it's all
Yeah.
about the
So
regulatory.
Yep. So how we envision it, we're not really selling directly to schools, right? That's actually why I'm building SATA. I'm not trying to get into schools. I'm trying to get outside of schools, meaning we're going to their PTA groups. We're working with charter and private schools who don't necessarily have that bureaucracy. But obviously we are compliant. So COPA and all of that.
And the timeline to get into, even with the private schools and curriculums, the timeline to get into those schools is pretty vast. I didn't see anyone on your team or any of the networks that you're already in. Can you speak a little bit to that?
Yeah, so Jose spent 10 plus years in schools as a teacher and he got out of it. So we do have quite a lot of connections into multiple private schools. We're actually already implementing pilots with 4 schools and 1 district.
Was that listed on there?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Under the distribution. Yeah.
Great. Okay. Yeah. I might double click on that and just like, own that, that there's a long sales cycle on this, but you
Absolutely.
have this unique angle because of his background. I think that's really important. And then the next part of this question was, who is your ICP for B2B and for B2C?
Yeah, so our B2B right now are banks. So banks right now have CRA that they have to hit, and we're using that angle to get in. But what we really want to do is to co-build with them. So we're getting in using the CRA angle, and then we want to potentially co-build.
I mean, I would say same argument there in terms of sales cycles, super hard, and it's got to be really relationship driven. So make sure you're double clicking on that. Are you positioning yourself as fintech, edtech, hybrid, and does that framing matter how you're positioning yourself for investors?
It is. So I actually don't like to be put in a box. I see us as more of, I guess, like if you wanted to put us, it would be more gaming and media. I don't see us as a tech or fintech, but we do have like a
Gaming
toe
and
in there.
media? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Gaming and media?
Yeah.
I don't know if I agree with that, but okay.
Yeah, but we do have like a toe in ed tech and fintech too.
Okay. I understand you not wanting to be put in a box, but like that's what investors do. They want to know where you are in their categories. Do they already have exposure there, and where do you fit? So I would be very clear on how you're pitching it. And Jeff said the same thing. Investors are going to put you in a box. Ed tech versus fintech versus gaming is going to be highly different and multiple expectations. That's my exact point. Thank you. So I would just be really clear on where you want to be. Even if you don't want to be boxed in, that's just how the the fundraising world works, because we need to know where our exposure is, and to Jeff's point, what our
Got it.
multiples need to look like on the other side of it, right?
Yeah. Okay. So in your opinion, where would you put us right now?
I would say if I were pitching, I'd say I'm at the cross section between fintech and edtech, because I think the
Okay.
multiples on both of those are interesting. Deb, what do you
Hmm.
think? I see you looking up and to the right. I know you have a lot of experience specifically in ed tech. I'd love to hear your opinion.
Yeah, I would call it ed tech. And in the good old days, it was, edutainment. So you're teaching kids, and you're
Entertaining.
stealthy. You're stealthy. So you're using fun characters. You're using all kinds of things to teach, whether it's physics or you
Hmm.
name it. I started a company after I left Disney. I was head of
Hmm.
interactive marketing, and yeah, I would say you're kind of in that entertainment education spot.
Okay.
I don't know if I'd say
Yeah.
fintech. I know you're teaching about money, everything about money, but I'm
Right.
not sure about fintech.
Maggie, I would
Yeah.
really recommend you connect with Deb.
Sure.
She sold a company in this space, so she
Hmm.
knows
Okay.
this really, really
Yeah.
well.
That'd be
Happy to.
Um,
great.
Justin
Hmm.
also mentioned could be cool if you incorporate a savings account or something so kids can actually see real money grow. Is that on your roadmap?
Yeah. So that's what we're actually not trying to do because we're not trying to be a bank tool.
Got
It's already been done before and it becomes more transactional. And that's where our ethos are not, in line with it. So why we're targeting banks, is to actually position us as the behavior piece leading into a kid's first savings account, which they will own. So we actually don't have to even worry about the security and all of that too.
Yeah. And Jeff says, coming at this from a financial institution as your customer is more interesting. I see a lead gen for financial institutions being their driver. I think that's fair.
Hmm.
My other question
Yeah.
was on the business model and monetization side. Can you speak a
Hmm.
little bit more about that? What's the planned
Yep.
subscription price point and what is that benchmarked against?
Yep. So right now for our D2C, it'd be $8.99 a month, 59.99 for the year, and then we are testing out a lifetime of 99.99. No one has done the lifetime before, but we figure we are continuing to build more games and more tools and building this world. So lifetime could be a really great way to kind of just like get the revenue going. The benchmark for it is we are at the sweet spot, kind of right there with the premium apps out there, the premium kids apps.
And to that point, you know, if parents are already paying $4 to $8 a month for Greenlight or an educational
Hmm.
bundle, why would they pay separately for content only?
Right. So this isn't, again, we're so different from a Greenlight or a Go Henry, right? Like we almost see us as the feeder to Greenlight. So Greenlight, Monarch, those are fintech companies that we can actually position ourselves to be partners.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another question, should this have a parent manual, parents not imposing
Hmm.
money issues or how to engage while kids are playing?
Should this have Do they have a parent manual? Yeah, we do actually. We have a screen time control, or we call it the quest pacing control, because we know that kids get distracted after a certain amount of time, like 10 minutes. So we do allow parents to adjust how many quests they get to do, how many games they get to play. We have a little playground area where there's actually music. They play memory games, cognitive behavior games. So that's called our brain break area. So if you're not on this like gaming journey, you're actually in the playground where it's actually nourishing your mind.
Jeff is giving you a couple of actionable links here to the DFPI program grant program, so definitely check that out. Um, can you talk a little bit about the compliance side again, the regulatory and trust piece? Walk me through
Hmm.
your COPA compliance in practice, um,
Hmm.
and how was parental consent captured?
Yeah, so right now are we're actually still working on it with legal. We have like the very basic compliance from Apple, what we needed to do to have the app for kids out there, but we just brought in a legal to kind of go through whatever we need to do to be in US and then global as well as we expand.
Okay, let's see. Any other questions from the group? You're not making any financial outcome claims, correct?
No.
Okay, great. And then just on the branding side, what does SATA
Yeah.
mean?
Sata means power in Hindi. So our goal is to give power to the next generation through confidence and curiosity.
I love that line. I think that should be a part of the conversation. That's pretty great.
Okay.
Um, Fantastic. Well, thank you for jumping in and really
Thank you.
appreciate that for the time. And what you're doing is so critically important. I think that our country has absolutely failed our youth in educating and empowering them around financial literacy. So I personally feel very strongly about this as a category. So thank you. All
Thank you.
right, two down. Let's get
Woohoo.
into the next one. This one I actually have personally met with, and I'm so excited about what this company is doing in the health space. I think they're going to literally change the world and change outcomes for women. I could not be more impressed with this company, and I'm so excited to have you all listen to what they've got to say. So, with that, I'm going to pass it along to Oriana to share with us how they are going to change the world.
Thank you, Laurel. I appreciate the introduction. Hi, everyone. My name is Oriana. I am the CEO and one of the co-founders at AOA, and we're transforming women's health through cancer diagnostics. The biggest product that we're working on right now is for ovarian cancer, and we asked the question, what would happen if we were able to catch ovarian cancer at the very first visit with our healthcare system? Today, unfortunately, women are dying because there is no way to diagnose ovarian cancer early. There is no screening test the way we get our mammograms for breast cancer or our pap smears for cervical cancer. There is no diagnostic test for when we experience symptoms, like if we had a lump on our breast. And so that leads to 80% of women are diagnosed when they're already at stage 3 and 4, which is metastatic disease that has spread across the body. But over 90% of women have symptoms of ovarian cancer and seek medical care. 3 million women in the US go to a doctor complaining of these vague abdominal symptoms. Yet, from the first point that they enter the healthcare system until they eventually get a diagnosis, it takes us 9 months today. And in that time, the cancer is doubling in size and spreading. And what does that actually do for a woman? It more than triples their survival rate if they were able to get diagnosed at stage 1 and stage 2. Yet today, the standard of care we have for them is a 31% 5-year survival rate because it's caught too late. With existing treatment, we could save these women. So it's not about finding better drugs to save that 31%. It's about finding better ways to catch the disease and actually give them an over 90% survival. What actually exists mostly is a wait and see and a whack-a-mole across the healthcare systems. We're not sure what these symptoms are. Are they GI related? Are they urology related? Go see a different specialist. Let's do a bunch of different testing until eventually, when we've ruled out or we can't figure it out what it is, then we refer you to oncology for specialty imaging and for a biopsy. Except unlike most biopsies, where you can sometimes go in non-invasively, get a small sample of the tissue, and then understand if it's cancerous or not, with ovarian cancer, just to get a biopsy, we have to surgically remove the full fallopian tube and ovary. It is so invasive, and the choices a woman have is, do I have cancer or do I lose my reproductive organs? In today's world, that is not good enough. That is why we are building the first ever blood test to diagnose women when they present with symptoms to their healthcare provider. This is a simple blood draw that can happen at that first appointment when they're complaining of vague abdominal symptoms before they've gone through multiple doctors and specialties to give them peace of mind up front. Our blood test allows us to rule, is this a high-risk woman, send her to imaging and specialty care right away, or is this a low-risk woman and actually navigate her for another disease because she's still symptomatic, so there's something going on there. Our test has now been developed with over thousands of women in clinical studies across the US in 40 different clinical sites with a diverse patient population, and we have shown over 90% early stage sensitivity, which means over 90% ability to catch the cancer when it's still at stage 1 and stage 2. And we've done this by building what's called a multi-omic platform. We look at multiple signatures in the blood rather than one data point. And we use machine learning to build an algorithm very specific and sensitive to diagnose ovarian cancer early stage. Our most recent publication, which is reviewed by scientists, was announced at the American Society of Clinical Oncology this past June, where we presented 92% sensitivity, so accuracy, to catch stage 1 and stage 2 ovarian cancer. This is unprecedented in the world of oncology and garnered an enormous amount of interest from clinicians and scientists alike. In the US, this market in ovarian cancer represents a $1.8 billion opportunity, segmented across 3 areas. Where do women actually seek care when they're not feeling well, particularly as it relates to gynecological symptoms? The vast majority will go to a gynecologist. I don't know about the other women on the call, but I have a pretty unsteady relationship with my PCP, but I see my gyne every year. And so typically, if something's going on, that's the first person I'm calling because I know that I don't have to wait for a new patient request or try to get in there. Then there is the primary care or GI sector, and unfortunately also the ED, where women who are really uncomfortable end up seeking care. And then third, a very fast growing segment of self-pay telehealth, where women are candidly getting pretty fed up with the healthcare system and seeking care online in ways that are more convenient and accessible to them. We target all 3 market segments where we already have early conversations and are in negotiations ahead of our upcoming product launch. We have a price per test of about $600, which is based on existing reimbursement codes. The way that we get paid in the early days is self-pay as we build what's called our clinical utility study. And within about 18 months of product launch, we're able to get reimbursement by Medicare and private payers as well. So that in the same way that if you were going to go to the doctor and they would order labs today and it would be covered by your insurance, our test would be covered as well. To come to market, we already have a very active patient waitlist and hospital system patient list of individuals and systems that are eager to use our test. We are in active negotiations with health systems for our early access program, where they would actually fund the test or pay for the test out of their hospital budget lines ahead of reimbursement. We're in negotiations with telehealth partners who would like to offer our testing to their patients as well. And we have 3 avenues for revenue: diagnostic revenue, which is the sales of our product; platform licensing revenue, which allows us to license the platform to look for additional indications; and research revenue. We have an LOI signed with a pharmaceutical company that would like to use our platform alongside their drugs to research new indications as well. What's most exciting about our team is that this is a commercial focused team. I come from a background of sales. I was boots on the ground back in the day when we didn't have like Zoom to make our sales calls, talking to gynecologists and introducing a number of products into the clinic. Our chief product officer has secured reimbursement for a number of oncology products as well. So we're a very commercial heavy team. The second part behind AOA is that we can do so much more than ovarian cancer. We have built the world's largest biobank of samples of women with vague abdominal symptoms. These are women that have trusted us in research, that have given their blood, that allows us to do research on ovarian cancer, as well as a number of other indications. We have over 3,000 samples in our biobank. Each sample can analyze over 1,000 different blood-based biomarkers and 200 clinical data points that individuals fill out when they sign up, which includes how long they've been on birth control, how much family history, how many kids they've had, how are their PMS symptoms. That allows us to have a treasure trove of data and integrate that into partnerships, wearable data, and research as well. The core behind AOA, other than the technology, is our team. My co-founder and I have worked together for over 16 years now. I joke that I've known her longer than I've known my husband and father of children. We were a part of 2 very successful women's health companies that built technologies, came to market, drove revenue, and both of those companies getting successfully acquired. We took that expertise and that operational know-how and said, where can we keep solving problems that disproportionately or differently or uniquely affect women? Because that is our biggest passion area. We've also partnered with Dr. Abby McElhaney, who has developed a number of cancer diagnostic tests that have launched to market. She's a PhD scientist with expertise in this area and leads our research team in our in-house development lab in Denver. And most recently, at the beginning of this year, we brought on Chris Roberts as our chief product officer. Chris had worked with Abby for decades at Roche Diagnostics and most recently led product strategy and the launch of 2 novel diagnostic tests that both successfully secured reimbursement and launched. Behind us, every single one of us has been a part of building a company from the ground up all the way through to acquisition. So we know what it takes to not only bring impact to patients, but also drive return for our investors. Today, we're raising our Series A, and this is specifically to mark fund to enter the market. This is the last round of financing before our test reaches patients. This allows us to launch our early access program for ovarian cancer. It allows us to activate a number of strategic partnerships, both in ovarian cancer and outside of ovarian cancer, such as our pharma partnerships, and to scale the data moat, which is becoming a large asset at AOA. In our pre-seed days, we went through Y Combinator, who has continued to be an investor. This round, is led by Good Growth Capital, and we have two corporate strategics as well who are joining the syndicate, LabCorp and Danaher. At the end of the day, we fundamentally believe that investing in this category is a huge returnable opportunity for investors, but also a huge impact to society, particularly where there are such big unmet needs, such as ovarian cancer. And with that, I leave my contact information and would love to connect with you afterwards.
Well done. Thank you so much. Obviously very needed and lots of questions about this. Jeff asked, and you kind of touched on this, are you launching as a lab developed test through your own CLIA lab, or are you doing FDA de novo?
We're launching first as a lab developed test in our own CLIA lab, and we have a pathway to de novo already highlighted. So we've met with the FDA 4 times. We've aligned with them on our clinical trial design. We've fully enrolled our pivotal study. We're in the follow-up period of that pivotal study. Anticipate a submission following our follow-up period and final readout to be able to do a class 2 de novo.
And the follow-up to that obviously is the timeline on that, because the regulatory pathway is obviously vast. It sounds like you're pretty far down that path already, but any idea?
Yeah. So LDT validation will happen at the beginning of next year. So that's why product launch is slated for early next year. FDA submission, if we're able to run it in parallel, which comes down to how much capital we raise in the Series A, could be as short as 12 months following that LDT. Depending on how much we raise, we may need to stagger it, and then it'll be between 18 to 24 months following our LDT.
And then it's been 4+ years that you've been working on this, right?
Yes.
Oh, it's a long time. And
Yes.
you spent
I have the
$24 million.
blood, sweat, tears, gray
Sure.
hairs to show it.
Yeah. What has the biggest challenge been? And is it just all of this regulatory? Because that's a long timeline from, ideating a product to commercialization.
Regulatory hasn't been the hardest because my co-founder Anna has an immense amount of regulatory expertise. And so she, from the day that we founded the company, was clear on we need to engage with the FDA, we need to meet with them early, we need to work them in as a partner. So that hasn't been the most challenging. The most challenging part in the world of diagnostics is you're proving a scientific thesis. You're flying the plane while you're building it too. You're proving a scientific thesis at the same time as you're securing capital, at the same time as you're trying to be as capital efficient as possible and reduce your timelines. And so in scientific work, there's a lot of trial and error and a lot of risks that you take, some that pay off and some that you don't pay off. And so managing our timelines in a way that keeps AOA really capital efficient, because you can sink an enormous amount of money upfront and then still need an enormous amount of money to commercialize, has been, one of the things that we've worked with. When we compare ourselves to oncology diagnostics, I would say the majority of oncology diagnostics that we've researched raise about $100 million before they come to market. We've raised just over 20 million to come to market, plus what we're going to raise now. So on the grand scale of capital efficiency, yes, it requires capital to build what we're doing. You should want that because you want what you use to be highly accurate. And we have to manage capital efficiency as we scale.
That comp to the 100 million raise is actually very impressive. I think that's a big call out. Continued questions here. You have a larger data set asking, do you have a larger data set than OVA1 or Roma? They're already cleared for malignancy risk assessment in symptomatic women.
So yes and yes. So we do have a larger data set, particularly in symptomatic women, where OVA1 and Roma are cleared for when a woman already has a mass on imaging to determine where that mass should be worked up. Should it be worked up by like an oncologist surgeon, or should it be worked up by a gynec surgeon? But the entry point is you already have to have imaging and a mass, which is later stage. Which is why, unfortunately, by the time people get an OVA1 or a Roma test, they're already stage 3 or 4. We come in much earlier in the pathway, before a woman has had imaging and before a woman has been worked up, to determine to go down the ovarian cancer risk pathway as quickly as possible. Last year, the University of Cambridge published a study that showed from when a woman first starts to develop ovarian cancer to when it's metastatic and spreads, it's about 4.2 months. And our diagnostic journey here in the US is 9 months. So
Oof.
we have a limited window and we need to catch it right when they come into the system rather than what ends up happening, which is this very long journey.
Yeah, and you really answered the next part of that question, which is your differentiator better performance or different point in the care pathway? So you're really helping
Both.
women, yeah, but with
Yeah,
both.
so we come in much earlier in the care pathway, but also if you do a head-to-head on our sensitivity and specificity, we have both sensitivity and specificity metrics greater than OVA1 and Roma.
It's incredible. Deb would like to see the deal, so make sure you reach out to her. She's got some really great connections there, great questions as well. We talked about regulatory timeline. Oh, I have a question. So you actually, if you wouldn't mind linking the the white paper that you guys just wrote, which was so
Yes.
fantastic. I think it would really be eye-opening for a lot of women in this room, and for the
Yes.
investors. So please link that.
Yes.
But I also had a question on, was that an independent blinded validation of the 92% sensitivity number? Because it is obviously super impressive, but I would just love a little more info on that.
Yeah, found that in the last 25 years, over 27 companies IPO'd or exited at over $1 billion for women's health companies, and over $100 billion was realized in exit value. That's in the past 25 years. So that just goes to show that women's health is a very high returnable opportunity. And then to answer your second question, yes. So we do all of our work, which is now we have published peer review papers. I'll include a link here to our publications page, which looks at independent test and holdout cohorts. And so what we do is we do a lot of training on different data sets and different to blind and then validation data sets. This includes retrospective studies through academic collaborations, as well as prospectively enrolled studies in our intended use population.
Incredible. Dr. Nisha, who is on our board, asked if you are looking at getting FDA approval in Canada as well.
So that is a fantastic question. And the answer to that is yes, because we have a close tie to Canada. The research actually began at McGill University with Professor Saragovi. And so we have worked with him. All of our original research data sets were in Canada, and it's a next segment for us, Canadian health approval, as well as a European CEIVD, and then beyond that too.
Thank you for that. I think you kind of already touched on this, but how does this beat Aspira, OVA1, Overa, which is already FDA cleared, reimbursed, and sold?
So, right, it's different patient population. So first of all, Aspira, OVA1, Roma, those are all for when a woman already has a mass and typically is later stage disease. And then also from a platform perspective, we use entirely different biomarkers and technology. So what Aspira does is use two biomarkers called CA125 and HE4, which have existed in the literature for over 40 years and combines them together to try to boost performance a little bit. It's okay, but it's not great, especially not in the patient population where we can catch it early. So we use entirely different biomarkers, excuse me, and we do it at a different point in time, much earlier in the journey. The one thing to say, and I think this is important to understand, is if we were just to compare this to the breast cancer journey, right? When you think about getting breast cancer, there are so many ways it can be caught. For example, you can know that your mom or aunt had breast cancer, and then you enter a risk surveillance program. You can go to your annual mammogram and get a specific type of imaging. You can feel a lump on your breast or feel a rash and get a different type of imaging. So there are different points in the journey for which a tool is needed, and they're all different tools. So just because Aspira exists doesn't mean there isn't value in what they're doing to triage a mass, but also the need to be able to catch the cancer earlier when they first enter the system.
Yeah. My last question is, can you just double click a little bit onto what the Series A will unlock for you? I know it's the path towards commercialization, but if you could just click on that a little bit more, would be really helpful.
Absolutely. So first and foremost, it's to be able to launch our test in our CLIA lab. So this funds the final certification needed for our CLIA lab, as well as the go-to-market. So setting up our phlebotomy partnerships, right? When you get the test, you want to be able to go and get your blood drawn down the line at LabCorp, ideally, and not, have to drive miles to get it. So operational setup. It also allows us to begin recruiting what's called our clinical utility study. This is the study that shows the cost effectiveness of our test so that we can secure our reimbursement. And it allows us to execute on our partnerships with a pharma company to develop new indications as well.
All right. Actually, the last question is, what does AOA mean?
Okay, so every time I get asked this, I remind myself I should come up with a better story. But when my co-founders and I started the company, We knew that we wanted to have a huge impact in women's health, but we didn't land on a product. We're not scientists, so it wasn't our thesis or our PhD. We were the commercial and operational people that knew how to bring product to market. So we went out to academics and tech transfer offices and IP filings, and we're really hunting for innovative research that we could bring forward. Except when we kept introducing ourselves, we were like, so who do you represent? So what's your company? And we didn't even have a website. And so we put the three initials of the co-founders on a business card and say, we're AOA. And always said, when we land on the platform, we'll rebrand. 5 years later, we never rebranded. So today I say it's the people behind the products.
I love that. Incredible. Thank you so much for all the important work that you're doing in the world. And we got some good feedback on the name. So thank you, Oriana, for that. And we are officially at the halfway mark, which means if those of you have joined us before, it's time for a stretch break because I really believe that sitting is slowly killing us all. So you can turn off your cameras if you feel awkward. Everybody can stand up, stretch it out just for a minute, jump around, be silly. We don't have to take this too seriously. We take the work seriously, but we don't have to take ourselves too seriously. So just a hot 30 seconds to a minute to just shake it off so that we can go through the home stretch of our last 3 pitchers. Thank you for that. I hope it got some energy and some blood flowing back in your body. I know it did for me. All right. Not that you guys know that I have any lack of energy. All right. So with that, we are moving on to our 4th pitcher and we're moving back into consumer land territory. So with that, I will invite Sabina to share.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sabina. I'm the founder of Farah. And I have a question to ask you guys. So you can either do the answer in your head or you can put it in the chat. But what do you think the #1 nutritional deficiency in the world is? So when I ask people this question, a lot of them actually say that it's protein. Some people say it's fiber. Some people say it's creatine. Some people say it's also electrolytes. Now, if you guessed any of these are good guesses, but it's actually none of them. The #1 nutritional deficiency in the world is iron. Now, 2 billion people globally have low iron. 1 in 3 women have low iron. And the groups that it affects the most are pregnant women, vegans and vegetarians, and women with heavy periods. I am so lucky to be one of the 2 billion people who has low iron. And earlier this year, I passed out twice. So I had 2 what they call vasovagal syncopes. And it was because my iron was super low and my ferritin, which are your iron stores, was a 3. Just for context, it should never be below a 15. Now, if you've never had low iron, what it feels like is you're tired, even though you had a full night of sleep. You have weird cravings, like you can look at this photo, you have dark circles that won't go away. You have hair loss, cold hands and feet. You're dizzy when you stand up, it's harder to work out. And the science behind this is iron is so critical to creating healthy red blood cells. And these are so critical to transporting oxygen all over your body, so especially to your muscles and to your brain. And there's also really bad long-term effects of having low iron for too long. So for example, pregnancy risks or weak immune system. And what's also really interesting is we all know this, there is a rise in GLP-1s, and there is a direct correlation between GLP-1s and iron deficiency. So the 2 big things, the factors are food intake. So you're eating less, so you're getting less of the nutrients that you need. But then the other thing is when you're on GLP-1s, basically the food that goes from your stomach to your small intestine, it happens a lot slower, if not reduced. And when you are absorbing iron, a lot of it happens in your small intestine. So this is very interesting, and it's kind of a why now moment. And when you look at the solutions for iron deficiency and you compare them with, let's say, protein has so many disruptive brands that have just like popped out of nowhere. And it's like every day we wake up and they're like, oh, we found a new way to put protein in something that you like, which is great. It's great. But when you compare that with iron, there's only pills and meat. So we did our own study and we asked 51 different women, tell us all about your iron deficiency. What is really annoying you about it? And the issues that they have with their current solution is they're forgetting to take it. They say that it takes too long to work. It's annoying to have to avoid certain foods and drinks with it. And it also makes them constipated and gives them nausea. The other 2 big takeaways were out of the 51 different women that we talked to, only 2 out of them were actually satisfied with how they managed their iron, and 52% of them have heavy periods. So the question is, how do we reimagine iron, and how do we reimagine this category? So we look at what other brands did, and for example, like Liquid IV, they didn't go into the hydration space and said, they're doing this, so we're just going to do it slightly different and better. They were like, no, we're going to reimagine hydration, and they made it more accessible. They made it almost fun, a part of your daily habit. And when we think about what we're going to do for iron, we want to make sure that it's in foods that women already want to eat. It's accessible. It's something that they look forward to. So that's where we're creating our whole ecosystem for iron. So we're starting with period brownies, and they're high in iron and magnesium. Magnesium actually helps with your cramps. And when women are on their period, like I'm sure a lot of you in the chat know, but you want chocolate usually. So it's something that you crave. So when we think about our product strategy, we know that women have iron deficiency for different reasons. So for example, heavy periods, maybe they're pregnant, maybe they're even endurance runners, or maybe they're not eating meat. So for example, period brownies, we're not naming them high iron brownies. I believe there's really a power in specificity. So that's why we're naming them period brownies. And then for the pasta, it's going to be geared more towards vegans and vegetarians. The iron bar for maybe athletes or women on the go. And the really cool thing is we started posting about 2 months ago, and we've already had 6 million views, which is really crazy, really weird. And I also love that 6 million people have probably seen how horrible I look in this photo. But that's really great. And what's also cool is we've been able to grow our wait list to over 10,000 people. So we utilize many chats, so people can just comment and then we automatically message them and we ask for their email in the chat and they get added to our list. And we also post it in different communities. My favorite part about the traction that we've gotten online is we're able to really engage with the community, and we've learned a lot about their experience, their frustrations. They're sharing, that doctors have been gaslighting them and basically saying like, no, we're not going to give you iron infusions, and how long it's been taking them to get their iron up. And they're really excited about Farah, but they're also really excited about how we're doing it. So with Farah, we're making sure that it's gluten-free and vegetarian friendly. Again, a lot of people with iron deficiency also have gluten sensitivity. So this is something that's really important. But also the type of iron that we're using, it's called ferrochel, or the scientific name is ferrous bisglycinate. And this is really high in absorption. And when you compare this to a lot of the iron on the market, which is ferrous sulfate, that makes you sick. And that's why we're leaning towards using ferrochel. Now, my background in this is I run a design studio. So I work with e-com brands all day, every day. And I am so confident in Shopify, in Klaviyo, in e-com strategy, conversion strategy. That's my bread and butter. So I wanted to bring somebody in that had experience that I don't have, especially with retail, with operations, with scaling a brand to $1 billion exit. So that's why we have Catherine, and she's been absolutely amazing. And this is all very important because our go-to-market strategy is in the first 6 months, we're direct to consumer only. Shopify, Amazon, TikTok Shop. And what we really want to do is iron out any kinks. So for example, with the packaging, do we want to make this bolder, brighter? Are there any typos? And then we also want to get a lot of data. So we want to be able to go to retailers and say, hey, customers love this. They're coming back time and time again. We have 4.8 reviews. Take all of that and say, because customers are responding so well to this, you're going to want this on your shelf. So we're going to go to smaller retailers like Pop-Up Grocer, Happier Grocer, Erewhon, and scale up all the way to Whole Foods, Sprouts, and eventually Target, and get our unit cost down as we get the volume up. So speaking of that, we have very attractive margins pretty much from day one. We're retailing at $16, and our cost of goods right now are $4.16. Now, the reason they're this is because we're using a pilot co-manufacturer. So they are helping us with our formulation, our nutrition label, making sure that we are all good to launch. But they only do production runs up to 540 pounds. Once we reach that point, they're going to connect us to co-manufacturers that can get our volume up and our unit cost down. Right now, we are raising a $250K pre-seed on a $5 million cap. What this is really unlocking for us is the capital to launch Farah and to prove repeatable consumer demand. a lot of our use of funds are going to inventory, to the marketing and launch, and to contractors, since we're not doing anybody full time. And this is going to give us a runway of about 18 months. Now, what's really cool about this space is there's so much opportunity. Like, to be quite frank, it is really boring and dull, and it's been completely abandoned, and consumers are not happy with what's out there. So what we're doing is really the future of wellness for women, and that future is Farah. Thank you.
Well, you certainly can tell you're a marketing girly, I'll tell you that much. That was like an amazing pitch. The visuals are on brand. I mean, on point, like really, really well done. And I have to say, like your numbers, the pitch, everything was really clear. Your margins are incredible. You're very clear about unit costs and scaling, and that was incredibly impressive. And there's a lot of questions around this from the group. I think the most important one is actually the second one, Jeff, which is Feroshel, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, is a licensed ingredient anyone can buy. So what stops a Chobani and Ollie from shipping the same product in 12 months? Where is your moat?
Yeah, okay, so I love this question. A few things. So Fairkel, yes, they're our supplier, Albion. And what we've done is we've trademarked the Farah name with a certain list of ingredients, but these brands can buy it and do it. But what we're doing right now is we're really, because there's no other brands doing anything like this, like in the food and iron space together. So we're really trying to solidify ourselves in the space and be like the first ones that are, one, providing education for their consumers. So explaining things like, hey, you experience these symptoms. This is, usually what it means. But also being number one on TikTok Shop about it, being number one on organic SEO. So doing that first. And yes, of course, they can do it. And I kind of hope that there are more options in the future, like there are for protein and these other categories. But that's really what we're doing right away to have us separated from them.
And the follow-up to that is, are you a fortified snack with good marketing or a health product that corrects real deficiencies versus mild deficiencies? What is the real efficacy, I think, of the product is the question.
Well, I have to be a little careful because, one, I'm not a doctor, and two, we have to be careful with claims. We can't say like, eat this pasta and this is going to solve your iron deficiency completely. So we don't want to say that. What we are, though, I would say, is a fortified food brand. So we're giving women more options to get iron into their diet in the same way that, like, if you need to hit your protein goals, you could eat meat, right? But you could also now have like protein muffins. It's that same thing. So women, when they are low in iron, they still have the option to eat other things or have supplements, but now they have Farah. So now there's other ways they can get their iron in.
So you're regulated as a conventional food, a dietary supplement, a medical food? Like what category are you actually in?
Food. So we're going to have a nutrition label, not a supplement label.
Got it. And so the claims around that are more marketing claims than health claims then.
Yeah. So again, like when we do paid ads, we can't be like, yeah, this is going to solve your iron deficiency, but we can say this is, high in iron, or it's a great way to get more iron into your diet, a great source of iron.
Got it. The lawyer in me wants to make sure that you have good counsel, because these are the kinds of claims that draw a lot of attention and pushback from the FDA and FTC fast if unsubstantiated. Yeah, Jeff says be very careful. Like, this makes me nervous if not done the right way. So I want to make sure you have good counsel.
Yes, definitely. My advisor, she actually connected me with someone, so that's been great.
Okay, awesome. I actually also have that vasovagal reaction, so I didn't ever think it was an iron deficiency, and now you've got me questioning myself, which is very interesting. I love that you're also targeting what is inevitable in terms of how consumption is changing from the consumer end, both because of GLPs and because of people going more plant-based. I think that angle in and of itself is a very interesting conversation.
Think about it from the plant-based, but like it makes sense, but I did think about it from the GLP one.
Yeah, I think plant-based going a little wider. I mean, you said vegetarian, right? Which is kind of plant-based is the more marketing focused term. What other questions do I have here? We got more questions. Who on your team is specialized in scaling production and logistics? Obviously, we think your marketing is great, but who's on the product and scale side?
Yeah, so to be honest, right now it's pretty lean. Like, it's me and my advisor. She has great experience and she's advised other people. And I don't want to be like, oh, we have this big team. Like, it's me and her right now. When we launch, though, I want to bring in somebody as soon as possible who can help us do that. The way I kind of think about hiring is like, there's people I want to hire that can tell me what I don't know. And then things like, for example, a VA and EA, but that's somebody that can tell me what I don't know is going to be somebody to do just that.
Got it. I think you can find some consultants or advisors on that. We have another question. Where do you manufacture, US or elsewhere?
US. So our pilot co-man, they're based in Texas. And then we're going to be launching in the US. My goal is to launch in Canada, in the UK, and in the EU as soon as possible. The great thing with Ferakel is it is able to go in all of those places. So that's a big plus.
My next question is about traction and quality versus vanity metrics. Obviously, you're very good at marketing. 6 million views is nothing to sneeze at. And correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like you're really doing a founder-led social content marketing approach, right? This is your user experience or your lived experience and reaching from that. Have you actually penciled out based on the waitlist size and what you're assuming conversion rate will be, what that first 6 to 12 months are going to look like?
Yeah. Hold on. I put it in my slides just because I'm not the best with memorizing numbers. I'm sure you can understand.
No worries.
So
I just want to be clear on vanity metrics versus what we actually think is going to convert once this goes live.
Totally. So in year one, we're hoping to do about 80% D2C, 20% retail and sell. And this is just the period brownie. So we're not factoring in everything else that we want to launch. About 31,000 units. The revenue would be about $500,000, a little bit less. And then net income would be about 260,000 in year one.
And that's in what timeline is that?
Year one. So full from when we launch November in 2026 this year until 2027.
Got it. Are you considering channel partner distribution for retail locations?
Yeah. So with retail, we're going to be in the first 6 months, just Amazon, Shopify, and TikTok Shop. And then after that, we're going to be in smaller ones at first. We did have about 2 weeks ago, a retailer reach out and they were interested, which was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. But then smaller ones at first and then scale to larger ones. The thing I just want to be cognizant of is, getting our volume up in a steady state, because I don't want to go into target too soon and we can't really afford that.
Got it. My last question is about competitive landscape and really moat, because there's so many brands out there that are doing these in gummies and capsules. Ritual is crushing it in this space right now. So besides, what else is defensible other than being food format instead of pill?
Okay, I love this question. Again, very visual person here. So when we think about our competition, who else is out there, what we're competing against, we're kind of competing against not just the pills, the gummies, but also other food solutions. So somebody who's I just eat, meat all the time and that's my solution. And some people who have liquid iron and Lucky Iron Fish and iron infusions, that's what I see as really our competition. Where we kind of stand out is we're a nice in between of all of them. So with the supplements, it's kind of you're getting the benefit of a supplement already in the food that you like. And where it's not just other food that has a little bit of iron in it, but it's actually made to, I don't want to say solve your iron, but help you get your levels up. So that's really where I see us standing out.
That's fair enough. And Jeff, you're funny. You really took the place of Mark. Mark is not on the call today, and he usually asks all the questions. Thank you so much for being so active. He says you should network with Flair, with Justin on the social media influencer platform. So he's setting you guys up. Founder setups happening live. I love it.
Justin and we've already partnered together in the past because I have a design studio. So I've already met him and I know Flair. I've met his wife. They're all amazing. So I thought that was super funny when I saw that we were in the same pitch thing. Hi, Justin.
Love it. Means you're in the right place at the right time. Sabina, thank you so much and wish you best of luck in fundraising. All right, last two. Thanks for sticking with us. Always last two are the hardest. So the next one rather on deck is Garza. Garza, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm right here.
Fantastic. Take us away.
Yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity. And I'm sharing my slide. All good? Cool. Yeah, currently, when businesses are sending money globally, they still are relying on outdated systems that were built in the 90s. Swift, Wire, ACH. The world is moving so fast, and we're still stuck in those eras. And that's exactly what Cavadax does. We are building the new generation of fintech solutions for enterprises to start sending money globally faster, cheaper, and more efficiently. Generally, I use the example of Priya. She's the head of a payment company at a money service business, doing 15 million in transactions and cross-border volumes. And she is paying 2 to 3% on transaction fee, 3 to 5 days in delays, 2 to 8% in hidden effects markup. Manual reconciliation is a nightmare. When she's connecting different bank accounts with her accountants, a complete mess. In general, it's 1.25 million lost. And we're living in an economy where the world is moving a lot faster, where you need to have people who can get paid right away in emergency situations, people who are impacted by flood, people who are impacted by wars, people who have sick parents or sick grandparents, which I had, and I wanted to send money to them and I couldn't. So that's exactly why we built Cavadax, where we are now not wanting to have cross-border payments be taxing every transaction and squeezing our businesses. Not only that, we do have a lot of solutions out there in the market, but when, let's say, Canadian businesses are sending money globally, they still have to go through another layer of effects and then do another layer of effects and finally do a conversion to another German currency or pesos or any other currency. Why can't we do direct conversion where you can send money from the US to Germany, to Italy, to Mexico, all in just one layer in less than 30 seconds, just like how you're sending an email? And that has not been available so far. And that's exactly what Cavadax is doing. For us, it's not about moving money. I say trust is not an emotion. It is built with strong layers of compliance, and that's what Cavadax has a strong moat around. We have removed the friction from Canadian dollars to using Canadian stable coins, which is minted one-to-one, backed by Canadian dollars. We have banking partners, we have reserve partners, we have custody partners. We have structurally designed and legally designed our stablecoin in a way that is for payments, that is solving this real pain point. And it matters because these hidden effects markups are actually right now being removed by how we have designed the platform. So the way it would work is, for Priya's customer, she would log in to the Cavadax's platform, put the amount, the destination, who he wants to send or she wants to send money to, how much. We do the rest for her. Her customer receives it in less than 30 seconds, all under 1% on transaction fee, very transparent, and she can track every layer of when the money is sent. What differentiates Cavadax as well is that we are not just going after consumers or retailers like Wise or PayPal or Stripe. We're going after bigger fintech companies, traditional banks, money service businesses, payment providers that do not have these solutions in place and that are relying on wire transfers. So there are 3 clientele types that we're going after: payment service providers, enterprise fintech clients, money service businesses, traditional fintechs that are doing higher volumes, at least 500K to 50 million in transaction volumes. This is an incredible opportunity because the US has just passed the Genius Act, Canada has passed the Stablecoin Act, and we are already seeing a lot of regulatory clarity. So it's not just a call by time or call by guys coming together and crypto guys taking over. It's really a regulated platform built on trust, designed for solving real problems. We have done a lot of the hard work by going live. We're live across 50 countries, 40 currencies, facilitating USDC, USDT in our own stablecoin, Canadian dollar stablecoin CAGD. We also have our APIs live that people can start integrating with. We have a qualified custodian in place named Balance. in the US and in Canada. We have wallet providers that have already signed these contract agreements with. We have received our money service business license and our payment service provider license. So we have cleared all the legal and regulatory requirements, which takes 18 months to 2 years for people who actually know it. And competitors have raised 10 million plus where they are to now what we have accomplished so far. We have also closed banking partnerships. That is a huge milestone and takes years for people to build that. So everything that PSP needs, we have that: stablecoin rails, compliance, banking, custody, orchestration, and these are not modes that people could have and copy very easily. Right now, we are offering all these solutions like Canadian virtual accounts, USD virtual accounts, and have seen a lot of traction. But this is my favorite slide because we just went live 3 weeks ago by receiving our regulatory approvals. And right now we have a pipeline of customers, for customers with 50 to 70 million in transaction volume. September is all booked for me where I'm traveling. We just got accepted to Mexico. I will be going there and we're meeting our customers there, enterprise clients. And that is designed by the Canadian Trade Commissioner, where they're doing a lot of B2B meetings for us. I'm going to Austria, where we are meeting a lot of B2B clients there, and that's also designed by the Trade Commissioner, and then going to Asia too. So the enterprise clients are lined up for us, and right now it's all about closing these deals. And it takes around 1 to 2 months for us to close these deals and start processing these bigger volumes. And we have raised over 300K. Today it's 400K because we just received 70K last night. So we have raised over 400K, all in non-dilutive funding. And currently, this is all us pitching, and these pitches and these wins actually signified Cavadax to really position itself as a market leader in Canada. And now people know us, understand us, and have seen us. And we're going to the States as well to pitch for a 1 million USD prize in November. We also received an offer from a very big client that is doing 600K customers. They have 600K customers and they want to partner with us. So we're negotiating and we have a very big hand with them. They are like, well, give us 15% of revenue forever. And we're negotiating with them to say, no, we don't want to, but they are bringing us that 600K clients. And it's up to us to decide to proceed. And we have very strong lawyers that negotiates that. So I want to draw us that we're not just yet another stablecoin company. We are having moats with regulatory stuff, but we also have moats around geographies. In which geographies we're choosing, like Canada, the US, Canada, Philippines, Canada, India, Canada, Mexico. And once we take over Canada, we're going to take over these other countries, Mexico, and then Mexico to the entire flows, and then Asia in the US too. But starting with Canada is our moat. And by the end of Q2, we are planning to process 10 million, and that's probably going to get us to 100K in revenue. And within the next 2 years, we're planning to process 2 billion to 3 billion, and that's a very modest assumption. If we are aggressive, we can process 10 billion very easily. This is a huge market opportunity that we could go after, and we're very differentiated in many ways from all these different markets. And I love my team. Sean and I worked together in the past. She was our compliance officer, and she has worked over for the last 15 years in the compliance space. Ahmed has scaled companies to 100 million ARR. He's our founding engineer. He's a very cracked Waterloo-based engineer. And Vanu is based in Ottawa. Very strong connections with the Ottawa regime, and I have lived in the US and have worked across Asia, and we have a strong team with the Osler team leading our legal and regulatory stuff. And I'll conclude our presentation with our raise. We're raising right now $2 million. We're one of the very few women-led fintech companies in this space across the world that is building this technology in a very unique way. We have 750K committed to our 2 million round. The close date is the end of Q3, and that will get us towards closing these enterprise clients, processing over 200 million in transaction volumes before we kick Series A around.
Are we done?
Yeah, no, we're done. Yeah, that's
wow. Okay. This is definitely above my pay grade. I do definitely believe in cryptocurrency. I've always been challenged with stablecoin in general because of just the vibe around it generally, but we certainly have some people in this room who have a lot more expertise. Just as a note in terms of presentation, you are clearly so well versed in what you're doing, but you are not doing yourself any service by going as fast through all these slides and speaking as quickly as you are. I think it'd be better to have half the slides and slow your pace. I have that issue myself. I tend to put on my New York and I talk really, really fast, but then people can't consume the information and the data and the growth and the fact that you are one of the only, women in this fintech space building something like this. These are all really critical points. It's just hard to consume that data when you're speaking so quickly and tonally, right? So just a little bit of media training and PR on that. We had some questions from the group. 50 plus countries is broad for the stage. Which 2 to 3 corridors will actually drive your volume and why those? You did have that slide with the watermarks to those countries, but if you want to speak directly to that again, please feel free.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for the feedback. I definitely will take the slowing the pace, and I receive it all the time. I still have to learn that. In terms of the corridors, we are just strategically targeting 3 corridors right now. It's Canada to Mexico, Canada, the US, and Canada to Asia. In Asia, we're targeting either Hong Kong or Singapore. We have to yet decide on these. And the reason we were targeting these 3 geographies is because Canada and the US has so much trade volumes. And so removing that friction from businesses is a huge opportunity for us. Billions of volumes are being transacted. Mexico is the second biggest partner in Canada, and we have a lot of trade volumes there. So that's why we're targeting that geography. And then Asia as well, where we want to connect North America to Asia, and it's a strategic point for us. We also have expertise on the ground in Asia and team members who have been from those geographies. So these are the 3 geographies that we are right now targeting to go after.
The next point of that question is, are there really 50 plus countries that have real regulations to support stablecoin fintech solutions? Jeff feels that seems inflated.
Yeah, so in terms of the actual number of countries, we hold regulatory requirements, and we have received all legal and regulatory requirements in Canada. In other geographies, we work directly with banking partners or with other fintech partners that have those licenses. And then we have legal counsel that has international expertise across different geographies. The reason we've been opened it up to 50 plus countries is because sometimes our clients want to transact in different places. And so they would like to have that possibility. And from a legal perspective, we have cleared up all those grounds.
Incredible. Next question. Does the customer care that it's stablecoin underneath, or is that invisible to them? Maybe the B2B side does, but maybe B2C doesn't care as much.
Yeah, right now we are working and focusing our GTM efforts entirely on B2B customers, enterprise clients. Our enterprise clients do have sophisticated knowledge around stablecoins because they have been traditionally using wire transfers, and they're losing a ton of money on that. So we have made it very simple for them from an end user perspective. When it comes to consumers, they don't care about stablecoin like an individual user. They just want their money to be sent faster, cheaper, and safer. And if we create those opportunities for them and create that trust and credibility, then and we're removing the friction of how the platform is designed, because they don't have to worry about, is it stablecoin, is it blockchain, how is it, all that. That is not very necessary for them.
Yeah, that the first part of the sentence, and how you delivered it was perfect. Next question here. As banks and major payment players move into stablecoin, what stops them from building this themselves? This is a question that I have as well. I think everyone's kind of anticipating the government's going to come up with something along those lines, since it's kind of deregulating it a little bit. What do you think is going to happen, and what is stopping them from taking over?
Yeah, that's a good point, and it's not something that we've been naive about. We've been engaging with banks directly, and the infrastructure of the banks is not designed for a stablecoin project. Stablecoin itself requires liquidity, in deep liquidity across different sorts of assets, and you need to have and move money for if you're doing cross-border payments, just the business model is not aligned with them. So where we're seeing opportunities is that bank will be adopting stablecoin rather than issuing their own stablecoin, then because then we will have 300 stablecoins. And what are you using those stablecoins for? Even if they use stablecoins, it will be for their own internal use cases rather than for use cases that we're going after. So the opportunity of banks doing that is very low.
Got it. And Maggie asks, is this only B2B? It sounds like you're focusing on B2B first.
That's true. We're focusing on B2B.
Got it. You had mentioned a $50 to $70 million enterprise pipeline. You're pre-launch though, right? Or do you have actual current transaction volume?
Right now, we just secured our regulatory approvals in July. So we are working with our clients. We have been negotiating the pricing, and that's pipeline. That's not transaction volume process. The pipeline to be converted is within the next 2 months or so.
Got it. And of the regulatory approvals, you said you just received some. Do you have any that are still pending, or you're fully approved?
We're fully approved. Everything is received.
Incredible. What is your net take rate?
Yeah, right now we are charging 40 bips on each transaction plus a flat fee for enterprises, which is $6,000. So all our costs are converted back to our end users or enterprises, and we're making around 6,000 every month from each enterprise plus 40 bips on transaction volumes. But it is very different because it depends on geographies and which jurisdictions are you going after and which legs are you going after. Is there effects involved? How much is your volume? And then based off of that, we decide. If you're doing 10 million, we charge you 10 bips. If you're doing 100K, we charge you 50 bips, which is a lot higher. So more transactions, less charges, less transactions, more charges.
Makes sense. Jeff, I feel like you know a little bit about everything we've talked about today. It's very impressive. My last question is, of the 2 million round, you have 750K committed. What happens if you don't close the rest of the round? What is the fallback runway plan?
We're very lean right now in terms of how we've been operating. We were able to secure all our legal and regulatory approvals. We were able to get all our licenses and get into these markets. So if I process 50 to 70 million in the next couple months, I'm going directly Series A and I'm raising like 15, 20 million instead of doing the smaller round. So right now for us, the pipeline of these customers is very strong, and we really want to double down on these customers and get to the market and close these customers. And this 2 million round is actually helping us to get to that market.
How are you dealing with the U.S. regulatory perspective on money laundering through your system? What precautions and mitigations do you have?
Yeah, so in terms of the money laundering and counter-terrorist financing, we already have our banking partners in the US. We have banking partners here in Canada that we work with, and we also have qualified custodians that are operating both in Canada and in the US. We have fintech partners in the US, and all of them are de-risking us. What de-risks Cavodax is that we're doing a lot of bank-to-bank transfers, and banks only approve you when they vet that you have strong anti-money laundering regime in place. So we have already bypassed that.
Got it. Incredible. Very impressive. Thank you. Like I said, a little bit over my pay grade, but it is wildly impressive what you've built. So thank you so much for presenting here today. And we are continuing with our last pitcher, who is joining us without knowing she was going to be pitching today. So with that, I will pass it over to Ngozi. Did I pronounce that properly?
Yes. Can you hear me and see
We
me
can
clearly?
hear you, and you're going to take us through another fintech play. We were heavy fintech today, y'all. Very interesting.
Yes. So let me share, and then I will like I want to max this out, or can y'all see this presentation just fine?
We can see it.
Okay, perfect. All right, awesome. Well, hi, everybody. I am looking at the presentation, so if I'm not looking at the screen at the Zoom. So I just want to know that in case my eyes are. But I'm so excited and CEO of Hot Sauce, and we're turning 500 billion in Venmo, Zelle, and Cash App payments into cashback rewards. So I'm not going to ask anybody a question because I know everybody has already done this. What's happening nowadays is we are paying businesses, all kinds of businesses, from Target to our plumber, to our hairdresser, to our gyms and yoga studios. We are paying them through Zelle, Venmo, and Cash App. And there's a lot of reasons why. But I want to tell you a quick story. So in 2021, I was a first-time home buyer, and I had a huge repair on my driveway, and I hired a contractor to come in and do the repair. And as we were getting ready to do everything, he brings in the concrete. He's like, "Okay, now you have to make payment." I'm like, "Great!" And I'm excited because if you're a reward maximizer like me, like I'm thinking I'm gonna get so much money on my Chase Sapphire. And he said, "You're gonna pay me through Zelle, and it's gonna be $7,000." And he was very serious. He did not take any other payment. And he was referred to me by a friend, and they paid him $12,500. I later found out through Zelle. So 5 years later and $50,000 plus dollars later, I have lost close to $1 million in rewards. And when we're talking rewards, we're talking points, miles, cash back. I have lost close to 1 million. And this is not just a story of me. This is a story of so many. This is a really huge problem because more and more essential expenses are falling outside of our normal spending. A lot of the things we usually spend money on, people are now asking us to pay them directly. And I understand why. Small businesses, it's almost 35 million, but on average, they're getting 4 to 6 chargebacks every month, no matter what. If you're a nightclub or even if you're a plumber or a contractor, they're all getting 4 to 6 chargebacks a month. And those chargebacks can cost them on average $512, about $128 per chargeback. So if the average business is getting 4 to 6 a month, then this is at minimum what they're spending, because it could be refunds, it's money paid to the bank that they have to pay for dispute fees. There's a number of different things that happen the minute a business gets a dispute or chargeback. And the small businesses are getting killed by this, on top of tariffs, on top of transaction fees, on top of fraud. Before we get to the chargebacks, they're dealing with fraud. And what we continue to find out from the 500 billion in payments is that 0.2% of the Zelle payments reported are not reported as fraud. Like, it's a very low number. So we're looking at a market and an industry in an area that really isn't being touched in terms of rewarding people for paying these businesses for their services and their loyalty, whereas other markets and other competitors, which we'll later talk about, are still using these same pathways. So there's a massive blind spot, right? What's inside of that 500 billion in payments? We're talking 357 billion in specific payments directly to businesses via Zelle, Cash App, and Venmo. And we'll talk more on numbers in a moment, but consumers, me, you, everyone on this call who has absolutely paid a business through Zelle, Cash App, or Venmo, we're getting no type of reward on this payment. And some people may only be paying $50 to a business, and it doesn't matter. But again, if you're a reward maximizer like me and some others, when you're starting talking the 500s, the 300s, the 1000s, we're missing out on things that can really serve us for vacations, hotels, airlines, a number of things that can be helping us, even if it's just for rest or if it's in an emergency. And like I mentioned, fees and chargebacks are killing small businesses. So speaking about what is P2M payments, which initially they're P2P, peer-to-peer, but P2M payments are person-to-merchant payments made through Zelle, Venmo, and Cash App. 2 million small businesses are already on Venmo right now. That includes Target. Target, my gas company, an electric company, Georgia Power, is on takes Venmo. So a lot of big enterprises are taking Venmo. And then also, your regular small business owner or enterprise or SMB, they are taking Venmo as well. There's 100 million Cash App users currently paying merchants. Many merchants, millions, as we know, use Cash App. They were one of the original apps where merchants were getting paid directly P2P. So that's an original player in this game. And then in Zelle, 357 billion specifically are small business payments on Zelle. So this is, again, a market that is huge and a market that's not really being touched. So what we created is Hot Sauce. Hot Sauce rewards users for their everyday transactions via Venmo, Zelle, and Cash App. And I want to talk a little bit about who our customers are before I talk about how it works. And I've said this word a while. So you could be a discount hunter. You could be someone who you're loyal to the deal, not to the business. You're not really into rewards like that. And you don't care if you get the deal and never go see the business again. You could be a discount hunter. You could be a loyalist, someone who passively does rewards. You're very loyal to where you go. You go to the same place all the time. You have their card or their stamper, or you have the recurring payment. You're a loyal person. You're a regular. And then you could be a reward maximizer, someone who has all the apps, all the credit cards. You're loyal to the reward and the business, and you are consistently trying to stretch your dollar in ways that a loyalist and a discount hunter would not think to do. So it's important that we understand these customers, and they're all ultimately a user for Hot Sauce, but they would be approaching it a different way. So how does it work? Hot Sauce, we call general cashback, where today you can get form a recent receipt, a screenshot of any of your Zelle Venmo payments to a business. And when you do that, you'll go through the process of uploading what we call a receipt. Did it just happen?
It did. Do you want to just turn your video off so you don't have audio issues? So you have more bandwidth? Just if you turn your video off, you probably will have better bandwidth. There we go. Okay, keep talking.
Okay, is it better?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry you won't get to see my pretty face, but it's okay. All right, awesome. So you can hear me well, right?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So I'll take a step back. So I was talking about
we got there.
Rewards.
Move on to the next slide and tell us how it works.
Perfect. So how it works. Perfect. Awesome. So how it works is we have what's called general cashback, where today a user will log on, they'll sign up, and they'll upload what we call a receipt, which is a meme, a GIF, a screenshot, something that just reflects your experience with the business. And that shows up on what's called an activity feed. And it showcases your wins. You're winning this cashback, not just earning it. And then we have what's called the proof of purchase, the POP, which that is uploaded right after the receipt, and it's back of house. No one sees that. And then we have a verification process that our legal team put together that goes through that receipt and verifies it with the business and with the user that it actually happened. And then they get approved for cash back. Now, that is a general cashback option, which we keep standard on the platform. What you're seeing here is our plus, our what's more, which is where merchants are coming in, they're making cashback offers to users. And these right now we have cashback offers that range from $5 all the way to $350 back. So we have merchants on the platform making cashback offers to users, and those users can claim the offer. They can redeem it according to the redemption instructions. And anytime they're redeeming it, they're always paying again through Zelle, Venmo, and Cash App. And then that same process, they upload that receipt, they upload that POP, and they get the same cash back you're getting paid outcome. So that is how it works for users. Now, just quickly on the merchant side, it takes 60 seconds for a merchant to sign up. It costs nothing for them to sign up. But then when they do sign up, they have the option to create an offer. And when they create an offer, some people can claim it. They can have a max. We have a minimum of 5, but they can have a max. They can run the offer for as long as they see fit. They can change the offers or create new offers according to different services or products. And once they do that, then when someone goes to redeem it, they get a listing of the different redemptions that they're going to review. And they get reminders as soon as the redemptions are available for them to review. And they simply hit approve, or they'll put a review mark for this is questioned. And what's really good about Zelle, Venmo, and Cash App is those are pretty quick transactions in terms of, did this person buy this or not? Like, you can kind of look very quickly in my experience with small businesses, you can kind of look very quickly to see who bought it or not. So, and then they also get the performance metrics of how their offers are doing, their claims, their redemptions, and just how many people are viewing it and taking advantage of it.
So your time is up, unfortunately.
Okay.
We have it was a 10-minute pitch. So
yeah, I'm sorry. It was so last minute. I wasn't even
totally
sure.
get that. Oh God, there's a spider that just came down literally right next to me. So sorry. This has been the wildest pitch, you guys, of my life. So I'm trying to stay calm. Thank you for everyone for joining. Thank you for the pitch. We are a little bit light on time, so I do want to have, if there are any questions, let's just get through those. Oh, we do have a question. Sorry, that spider really threw me. Jeff asks, what stops Chase from launching merchant-funded cashbacks on their own rails? So where's your moat here?
So the moat is one, small businesses that we're working with, they are typically not on these mass platforms because the money that's tied to what they would get is not going to be enough. It's not scaled enough for them. So that's why Chase wouldn't do this. Rakuten wouldn't do this. Ibotta. I mean, that's why they all wouldn't do it. They're just not going to get anything. That's why the credit cards don't do it. They don't get enough money back for it. And in terms of why wouldn't Chase create something like this in general? I think it just speaks to like people not going to go to their banking app to see what their friends are winning or earning on cashback. Like they're not going to their banking app for that. They're going to their banking app to just look at that versus our platform is designed to showcase your friends and family winning cashback and you getting the opportunity to get cashback on these specific platforms that are not currently getting rewards.
Got it. And then we have another question. Is there a way to verify purchase without uploading a receipt? I know a lot of these platforms, if you just have them like email the transaction, maybe that's another way, but does it require uploading a receipt?
So if we're talking about like the proof of purchase, it would require it specifically because Zelle, Venmo, and Cash App, the only thing they have is a screenshot or a PDF. Zelle and Venmo do PDFs. Cash App, to my knowledge, does not do PDFs. So you only have the screenshot, but there are very specific things that have to be in the screenshot for a business owner to confirm it. Our future roadmap is ideally Stripe buys Venmo, and then all of these things can be integrated, and we would be able to put that on our platform so they don't have to consistently go off app or have to really screenshot and press upload. But I do want to note that when you're paying your friend or your mom, it's not out of practice or out of pattern to screenshot that you paid them and send it to them. So we're not totally going out of your patterns. We're only telling you to take that one extra step to get that cash back.
Got it. And then the last question is, if proof of purchase is a user upload screenshot, how do you stop fraud at scale? This is my big question too.
Yeah, absolutely. So our verification process is not AI solely. It's 3 coverages. It's manual, AI, and then again through the business. So at the end of the day, if the business said you didn't pay it, then it doesn't matter. So that's the first one. And then secondly, we have 200 users now. I didn't get to go through Taction, but we've had 200 users in the last 45 days. We just launched in the last 45 days. And we've had some fraud already, and we've instantly been able to like remove it. So at scale, there's definitely going to have to be a pulling in and a narrowing of our 3-step process. But ultimately, like, we're not going to play with a small business's money, just like we're not going to play with the user's money. So we're going to take our time with those processes.
Got it. There's a couple more questions in the chat. Feel free to answer those, but I pride myself on trying to end on time. We had a couple of technical issues. So with that, I'm just going to share our next virtual pitch day. Thank you so much for pitching last minute. We really appreciate that. So make sure you screen this or you scan this rather and join us on November 18th. That will be the last one of the year. I can't believe we're even talking about the end of the year already. That is so wild. And this was the wildest pitch we've had yet between all the technical errors and a friggin' spider. Thank you for those of you that stuck with us till the end. I really appreciate it. And I know that our pitchers really appreciate it. We cannot do the work that we do without each and every one of you. So let's weave the fabric of the future together. And as I always wrap up these conversations, go forth, be fabulous, and make change possible. Thank you all. Have a great rest of your day.